Hey traders, welcome to my trading recap here for Thursday, June the 9th. I'm trading Emini S&P 500 ES futures on the 555 tick chart here. And overall, a pretty good day, even though, again, a little bit slower. We're still kind of in that summer mode at the moment with just not a ton of volume, ton of volatility. Spent most of this morning kind of ranging, but a little bit of patience and discipline just following the plan. There's some good trades in here, some good profit to be made. But as you can see, pretty sideways for the morning, at least what I traded, which was basically 2.5 hours in here, ending right around that noon Eastern time. We'd actually had in the overnight, little pre-market, a decent drop down. So especially with it, we had an area in here that reacted a couple times on the way down at this 2112. So I wanted to keep an eye on that in case that, if there's one place that was going to bring in some sellers, that was a fairly likely place to do it. And, ideally wanted to kind of trade to the downside a little bit more straightforward, probably the path of least resistance, but a good enough move, a good enough structural break. We might have a good chance at some moves to the upside as well. So we saw here, as things open, pretty sideways, not much direction, not much momentum. So just kind of waited things out until it became a little bit clearer. You always have to be a little bit more cautious around that market open anyways, unless you do have some clear direction, clear movement, because a lot of times, false breaks and reversals, that sort of thing, are very common around that open. We actually see that here, where even though we push down with some momentum, we kind of sit around in here for a little bit and then launch the other way. And that's often just a little trader's trap that kind of happens early on that you have to be aware of. A lot of traders will try to kind of go short on the breakout or long on a breakout just outside of the pre-market range, and that often will get traders caught in the worst possible spot, and things will kind of go the other way. So you have to be really cautious with that. But we pushed up here. It wasn't really a great chance to get long early. Just structurally, it wasn't all that appealing at that time, especially considering that we had mostly seen selling in the pre-market. Once we pushed up here, some fairly good momentum. I was looking for a retest the area. A lot of times, areas will test a couple times. We'll make multiple attempts, multiple moves before they potentially reject and go the other way. So I was kind of looking for that. But once things came back a little bit deeper here and weren't really following through, didn't really make too much sense to hang on to this and take a full risk. So I brought things in a little bit quicker, tighter than I normally would, and basically just hit the close button on the trade when it wasn't following through here, because I got into this with that sort of momentum and knowing that I was going against some of the flows of the day. So if I don't see that momentum continuing pretty much right away, if I don't see areas being responsive and that those signals that we're going to go and test back into that area, my original kind of reasoning for entering that trade somewhat invalidated, and the risk becomes a lot higher. So I just managed things accordingly based on that. But from there, we continue to range a little bit, just kind of shooting back and forth and getting a little bit of that sort of whipsaw action, which can happen in these sort of environments. Pushed up into this area again. This time we did get that secondary test, and so I wasn't really wanting to force anything here. But as things came down out of this, it gave us a pretty good trend line that came into play a little bit later. And I actually did want to try to get a short in here. Like I said, I was kind of trying or preferring shorts if possible, but everything that we were getting was a little bit difficult, hard to latch onto, or having to trade directly into areas that could be problematic. And so a lot of times, when you get these ranges, they look really easy to potentially trade to kind of take things off the range and head back the other way. But it's often not as clear cut, because you can see that we kind of overshot things a little bit compared to previous touches here, and overshot things a little bit here, kind of trapped some of those traders short before we went the other way. And so those sort of traps, those sort of games that kind of get played, unless levels are really clearly defined and reacting very cleanly, it's harder to take a limited risk on those. And I like areas where I can take very little risk for a good potential reward. So the only thing I'd be potentially looking for in here as far as trading off levels, trading ranges, would be in the direction of that prior trending move to the downside anyways. So potentially kind of retests with limited momentum into these areas, might have been willing to do that. But because the way things were kind of overshooting, not as well defined on the day, without a clear enough area to trade to keep that risk low, just wasn't really willing to do it. But there was this good long here as we got that nice structural break and was able to take that back up in the area. And then another good push down here, which was the first time I actually got a real good chance to go short. You'll notice that I actually tried to get filled earlier here. I couldn't get that fill, so I entered a little bit more aggressively, and I was okay with that because we were kind of defining a little bit of an area here. We had a little bit of a swing point here as well. So still, like the area, like the trade. Just wanted to give myself that higher chance of being able to get that fill once that area had held at the 0.25 there, the 2109.25. So got one more run down to the area here. Would have been willing to take a little bit less profit if it started to struggle, but essentially I was just looking for a major swing point down here, which if you go back, you'll see there's quite a bit of demand came into the market, kind of overwhelming the supply in a pretty strong vertical move off of this area here, this 2106.5. So, I was very happy just to take profit before that in case that reacted quite strongly. You'll see it actually had a bit of reaction here, but it came back down to test a couple times before it actually launched to the upside here. So overall, pretty good trading. Again, requires a little bit of patience right now. I'm definitely not getting quite as many trades as I might typically get, but still some good profits to be had in here. And overall, it's been a pretty solid week, all things considered. So hopefully tomorrow offers even a little bit more, and maybe I can turn this into a, even getting somewhere into that 12-point range for the week or something like that. But we'll just have to see, what it offers and what's available. Because again, not going to force anything. Just going to let the market kind of come to me and take the opportunities that it offers. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you had a great trading day, and I'll talk to you soon.